You're listening to The Silver Stoner Show.
Your Uncle Herb, the Silver Stoner, and this is another episode of the Silver Stoner, where we are redefining what it means to be a stoner. I can't speak English. You know what the funny
You
part?
had a great day yesterday.
You know what? Well, let me tell you. After the show yesterday, we did a Too High for YouTube with the guys from the Coffee and Canary, and then we dabbed, and I took what would be called a man-sized hit from the dab, and that was it. So after everybody left, I sat in the dark in the studio, I swear to God this is true, and slept for an hour with my head leaning against the wall because it was phenomenal. I felt as if I was a York peppermint patty turned inside out. I felt chocolatey and yummy on the inside and cool and tingly on the outside. You know, it was kind of the reverse, right? And it was delightful. You know, I am literally on my list and I love the rig they were using from the Coffee and Canary. So I am actually going to go over there. It's in Scottsdale for those of you who aren't in Phoenix or are in Phoenix in Old Town. And I'm going to buy that exact rig this weekend. I'm hoping they're going to give me the family discount, which I'm sure they will. And, and I'm going to...
And now they're notifying you.
Well, no, that wasn't them, but that was just me being too stupid to understand I should have muted my phone. But that's the great thing about recording these things live. Anyway, it was great. We are redefining what it means to be a stoner. We are creating a community of the open and the creative. And I hope that you are open and creative. And the 5 tenets that are up there just tells you what we believe and what it really comes down to. If you had to summarize the 5 together, you would say, mind your own business, do what you want to yourself, and don't overreact to anything too terribly much, and you'll live a longer, happier, and stoner life. And wouldn't the world be a better place if we all just followed the 5 tenets of stonerhood? So if you have friends, by the way, who are stoners or are of the stoner attitude, whether or not they smoke weed, invite them to join us over here at the Silver Stoner and join the community of stoners where we are creating something that is better. We just don't yell at each other, which, 999 times out of 1,000, all this bad news that goes around this isn't really all that. We're going to forget about it in about 20 minutes. Why we get all worked up about it is beyond me. I think we have more in common as human beings. The difference genetically, I read in some. This is a scientific fact. You can Google me on this, or fact check me. Do it, wherever you want. DuckDuckGo, whatever you use for a search engine. But we are all about 99.75% identical, regardless of race or where you come from on the planet. And when you think about that, the only tribe that we should all belong to is the human tribe, and that's what stonerism is all about. So anyway, let's talk about some good news. Let's go to the Silver Stoner News. Tech Master E is with me today. We don't have any guests. Later on today, we're going to the meetup here in Phoenix. I only bring this up for those of you who are budding cannapreneurs. META is a national organization. It's the trade group. It's the trade association. I think it stands for Marijuana Industry Trade Association, MITA. And they have, we're going to obviously an Arizona State one, but in your state there's a META chapter. And if you're a budding entrepreneur, or cannapreneur as I call it, this wasn't really in the script today at all, Tech Mastery, I just want to bring it up. It's so much of success is who you know as much as what you know, right? So to go and to network and to meet people and to touch the skin and, when I say that, I mean shake hands. I don't mean be gross. And get out there and collect business cards and share what your ideas are and and listen. You learn more by listening than talking. You can pick up a lot at these events. And I always say that whenever I go to any kind of industry event or trade show or speech or whatever, if I come away with one usable idea, I feel that it was time incredibly well spent. So listen, do yourselves a favor wherever you live, join META, go to the events, if you're a budding cannapreneur, and this is a way for you to get involved. Okay.
Great idea.
Yeah, it is a good idea, Tech Master. I mean, you're what? How old are you? How old are you, Tech Master? 50? I keep forgetting. 53. You just look so good. Black don't crack, man. I'm so fucking jealous. Anyway, and I'm 64. But we both learned over the years, it's really as much who you know. Wouldn't you agree with that, Tech Master?
Absolutely.
As we were getting sponsorship, for example, for this show, I reached out to people I knew, I had networked with, we had met, we had come in contact with. It's all relationship. Okay? And so much of that is stonerhood, right? So anyway. That's enough. I'm not going to preach at you. Let's go on to the good news. It turns out that more employees nationally are testing positive for pot, which just made me, the story, by the way, that doesn't surprise me at all because people are staying home during the pandemic. I'm sure lots of people were getting high. I mean, everyone that we've talked to in the dispensary business and the pot growing business and in the paraphernalia business, their business is phenomenal. I mean, I don't know how the rest, the rest of the economy is, doing what it's doing, but the cannabis industry is, basically exploding, right? I mean, it's just going off the rails of good, and it's just the beginning. And naturally, more people are going to test positive for pot. But here's my question. So what? I mean, pot stays in your system a long time. If pot is a legal product, like alcohol is a legal product, why do we test for pot now that it's legal in states where it's recreationally legal? I mean, it makes no sense to me. You're not tested for alcohol. I mean, and there's plenty of drunks going to work. Why do we test for pot? Why are we still treating pot like it's something bad? Because if you smoked pot even a week ago, you're going to test positive when you go in for your job interview. And what the fuck does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Remember,
companies aren't keeping up.
Well, that's just, and isn't that true of all bureaucracy and rules? They just look for ways to make rules, and no one asks, does the rule make any sense? I mean, guys, I'm high right now, and I'm reading and writing and doing. I mean, I could do any job just fine. I'm not very high because as an experienced stoner, I know, like when to have a little and when to have a lot. But a little opens me up creatively, a lot puts me to bed. And trust human beings and stop that. It's just insane. But anyway, let's move on to another happy story. 10-year-old refugee is the national chess champion. Now, I know I'm doing a little digressing, but I got to we're a chess family. My family is the Ivans are a chess family. My son, Julian, played chess, and my daughter, Chloe, but Julian in particular, because Chloe, it's so funny. People who don't think boys and girls are different have never raised boys and girls as children. You know what I mean? It's like when the school that my kids went to was called Armstrong Academy. It's gone now, but it was a little private school in Tucson, Arizona. And now it's just called the Academy of Tucson. It's not gone. It just changed hands, and anyway, it's not important. But it was very small classes, and it was, basically we only had intramural sports, where the kids played on the playground. But for competition, we played, believe it or not, intramural chess. And so Julian and Chloe both began playing chess. Armstrong Academy was the national elementary chess champion school, the team. And so we took chess very seriously. And I'm not going to go through the whole story, but I'll tell you this. Julian today, he's the one who, by the way, has done the graphics on this show, to give you some example. He's done the graphics for Shaq's Chicken Shack, which I shared that for a reason. We're going to come back to Shaq in just a little while. He's done Snoop Dogg's graphics. He does Ellen DeGeneres. He's a very well-known animator and illustrator in Hollywood. And it takes a tremendous amount of concentration and a tremendous amount of repetition to really become good at anything, like art or, for example, chess. And Julian will tell you that he attributes his success today to chess. And by the way, Chloe, when I say girls are different, Chloe never could figure out what the big deal was about checkmate. It's just such a girl. She loved to play, but she always played to a draw. She just never really wanted to inflict, and I didn't bother her about it because it's who she is. And as her father, I didn't see any need to drill into to make her into a more aggressive, right? I mean, but no. Boys and girls are different. I don't know why that's
wired
hard to
differently. 100%.
Right. And there's a time and place where each gender really has an advantage, and to recognize that is not a microaggression, I don't think, anyway. But anyway, so this 10-year-old boy, he is an immigrant. There's so many parts of this story that really make me excited. First of all, he's a Nigerian immigrant, okay? So, again, I want to preface, we don't do politics on the show, but immigrants are the strength of America. We're all immigrants. Unless you are an American Indian, we are all immigrants at one time or another. We may have come here involuntarily through, for example, slavery, or we may have come here voluntarily, like my grandfather did at the beginning of the 1900s from Russia. But regardless, we're all immigrants. And now that we're here, shutting the door shuts out people like this 10-year-old boy. And we need more 10-year-old boys like this. Okay, so I hope I don't screw up his name. His name is Tanatalua Adewumi. Does that seem right? Tanatalua Adewumi? Was I close?
That goes.
Okay. For short, he goes by Tani. He is the 28th youngest person to ever be a Grand Master. Can I tell you something? It is
28th, huh?
28th youngest. okay, which at 10 years old is pretty remarkable. But Grandmaster is this isn't like becoming a black belt of karate where if you do it long enough and you go to enough classes, eventually you'll earn your black belt. And I don't mean to denigrate karate. My grandson's in karate. It's hard work, but you can ultimately achieve it even if you're not particularly, as long as you're not going to compete, you can achieve a black belt and not be particularly great, okay? But in chess, you got to be great. To be a grandmaster, you have to be 6 to 8 moves ahead of everybody. And that sounds easy, but that's not easy. Okay, and this kid is obviously brilliant, and he just won the United States National Chess Championship put on by the U.S. Chess Federation. He is so remarkable that Trevor Noah has gotten greenlit to make a movie, an autobiographical movie about this child's life. And I just think this is a remarkably positive story. Tani is the kind of kid we want in America, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so closing, let's not just willy-nilly shut the border down and say we're here and you can't come in. And Nigeria is one of those countries where you hear bad things about it, but you can't classify an entire group of people by a few bad eggs, right? Because tons of Nigerians like Tani come to this country and make tremendous contributions. And the strength of America is our diversity. We have forgotten that. For example, the Chinese are great, but they all think like Chinese. What makes America great is we have lots of Chinese who think like Chinese, and then we have lots of Africans who think like Africans, Jews who think like Jews, Arabs who think like Arabs, Italians who think like Italians. In other words, we have such a diversity of cultural thought that we always, as a country, find a way, right? And let's not throw out our strength without thinking about it first. I know that some of you may disagree, and that's okay. You're stoners. You can disagree with me, but look at Tani. That's all I have to say. Let's move on. Yep. Okay, next piece of good news, and this really made me happy because I'm all for green energy, and I believe global climate change is real. I don't think it's an imminent crisis, but I think it's real and a serious problem. And certainly wind turbines are part of the solution, but the problem has been they've been creating a holocaust on birds. Because if you go to a wind farm, you don't have to go very far. If you live out west here, next time you're driving to Los Angeles and you go through the Banning Pass, you'll see a huge wind farm. And if you pull off the road and look under the turbines, you're going to see lots of dead bird carcasses because birds fly into those turbines spinning. They just do. I don't know why they do. I guess that's where the term bird brain comes from. But regardless of whether they're PhDs, they deserve to live. They're one of God's creatures, and the wind farms kill them by the millions. But in Norway, and this is why I share this with you today, they have cut the death rate by 70% by simply painting one of the blades black. Okay? I mean, just think, that's such a simple, elegant solution. So all we got to do is paint one blade of the 3 blades on a wind turbine black, and we cut down the bird annihilation by 70%. And that is good news. And so, listen, I'm all for the turbines if they're not killing eagles. You know what I'm saying? Or robins or sparrow or anything else, or crow. I don't care what it is. A bird didn't ask for it. So good. Yay, Norway. Way to go. The scientists, by the way, they call the death that makes birds die a motion smear. So that's what they call it, a motion smear. So by putting a black blade on it, evidently the birds can see it and they don't fly into it, and good for them. Okay, moving right along. I saw this and it just fascinated me. Is optimism bad in a pandemic? That's a good question. I'm naturally wired, and you know this to be true, Techmaster. I'm going to always see the bright side of everything. It's hard for me to see the downside in general. I think that's how I survived prison, really, if you want to know the truth. But can you be too optimistic? So I'm just going to share this with you. As humans, we have a tendency to overestimate the likelihood of experiencing positive events and underestimate the likelihood of experiencing negative events. That's all well and good in ordinary circumstances because obviously if you're optimistic, you're better armored to handle the shitstorm that life truly is. I'm an optimist, but I understand, for example, that life is a shit sandwich, as I'm sure the Techmaster E does. Do you not?
Yeah. It's a sandwich.
It's a sandwich. It's definitely a sandwich. But such an outlook increases positivity and reduces anxiety and contributes to good physical and mental health, but it's less so during a pandemic when our tendency to emphasize positive outcomes could be putting ourselves and others at risk, say behavioral psychologists. You know what? I'm reading this story. I'm going to have to throw the bullshit flag on this one. I think the behavioral psychologists on this one are full of shit. What they're basically saying is if you're too optimistic, you won't wear your mask. I don't believe that.
I think their eyes are brown.
Yeah, thank you very much. Their eyes are brown. They're full of shit. Yeah. And my eyes are blue, so I'm not, well, I could be full of shit. I once met a nutcase. This is a digression years ago, who told me that if you didn't have blue eyes, your system was toxic. But I don't even know why. It was just the dumbest thing I ever heard, and that's why I bring it up. But anyway, listen, you can't be too optimistic. I disagree with that. There are hard sciences and there are soft sciences, right? So physics is a hard science, right? Astronomy is hard science. Chemistry is hard science. So, in other words, you can come to a conclusion based on scientific process. But psychology is not a hard science. It just isn't. And by the way, I've gone to psychologists. I respect psychologists. I believe in psychology, but you got to find a good one, and that's not so easy. Because a lot of people who get involved in psychology get involved because they are batshit crazy, just like I met people in prison who became drug and alcohol counselors by the dozens. Not one, I met dozens of them, and who were taking, by the way, classes at a junior college called Rio Salado to get certified as, in prison you can actually do this in correspondence courses, to get certified as a counselor, and believe me, they're not as reformed as they think they are. I mean, that it just tends to attract the wounded. And so before you take a psychologist's advice, make sure you have a good psychologist. That's all I'm saying. Like anything else in life, there are good ones and bad ones. Now, enough of that. Let's move along to my favorite subject, which is dogs. I am a dog nutcase. Thank you. Thank you very much. My puppy, who give tissies, and if you think that sounds silly, tissies are kisses. That's just what I call it. My tissy puppy, Pepper, the Airedale Terrier, is the love of my life. It's the truth. She's at least tied with my children, and most days she gives me more pleasure than they do.
But is she a brew dog?
She is not a brew dog, and I wish she were. But she's a pot dog. She's a weed hound. You know what she does, by the way? I'll get to the story in just 1 second. She comes up to me until I blow smoke in her nose. It's the funniest thing. Okay. Anyway, brew dogs to the rescue. This is a great story. Mark and Karen Hoywetter, I'm going to say Hoywetter, I'm probably saying it wrong, are co-founders of Six Harbors Brewing Company in Huntington, Long Island. Those of you from New York.
Island.
Long Island. You say Long Island.
Like Long Island.
Long Island. From Long Island. I once dated a girl from Long Island. Her name was Marjorie. Her father was a printer in Manhattan. Anyway, she was lovely, I think. I don't really remember her very much. I don't even remember her last name, but her first name was Marjorie. Anyway, this is a coastal town in Long Island, like most towns are. Well, they're not all. That's not true. There are lots of little towns in Long Island. And they were inspired to bring dogs on beer deliveries to cheer up customers. This is a quote, people started seeing the dogs on deliveries, so we came up with the idea of having them bring the beer to them. Mark Hoywetter, the co-founder of Six Harbors Brewing Company, said what they did is they trained their golden retrievers. They trained their golden retrievers to deliver the beer.
Six-pack at a time.
Six-pack at a time.
So if you needed a 30-pack, what was going to happen?
You need a Newfoundland. So our partner, Dowmaster Jeff, who provides me daily with the Dow, has two Newfies that go about 120 pounds apiece, Bruno and Scarlet. So I'm saying if you need, for larger than a six-pack, you need a Newfoundland or a St. Bernard. But I just think St. Bernards are famous for that, right? Carrying around the booze and serving people in the snow and all that kind of crap. But anyway, I just share that because it's a great dog story. And, you can go watch, MSNBC or Fox for bad news. But today we're just sharing, as always, good news. Because, why not? Okay, moving right along. I just love this story because it's so silly. So evidently, there was a competition held, this is in Michigan, I think it was originally, called the Battle of the Joshes. Evidently, Josh is a very popular name these days. A lot of kids are being named Josh. So they got together all the Joshes into a pool noodle battle, and the winner was a 4-year-old. He was the Josh Vincent Jr. got the plastic trophy and an oversized cardboard crown after Nebraska. Battle Royale of the Joshes armed with pool noodles. I've been to Nebraska. My ex-wife is from Iowa. I've driven through Nebraska, which I call the endless state. Have you ever driven through Nebraska, east to west?
I stay away from.
It's an endless sea of cornfields. It's like it never ends. You just drive and drive and drive.
That's the driving treadmill.
Flat cornfields. There's not even a hill, as far as I can tell. If there's a hill in Nebraska, feel free to share. I think that, by the way, best steak I ever had in my life, twice, on 2 different visits, was in Omaha, Nebraska. So I'm just saying, I love nothing wrong with Nebraska. Not knocking it. All you stoners. I don't even know. Is Nebraska legal? I don't know. I'm going to have to check on that. I hope your guys are legal. Anyway, good for Josh. Moving right along. Remember I said Shaq would come up again? Here comes some great news about the Shaq. And from what my son told me about after meeting him, not that he's a friend to Shaq, I'm not name dropping. He just met him in the course of doing the logo for Shaq's Chicken Shack, his new chicken chain around the country, which I understand is very good, although I have not eaten there, I won't lie. Shaq was going into Zales jewelry store to buy some bling for himself. He likes, if you got he's probably a billionaire. I really don't know what he's worth, but whether you got $100 million or $1 billion, pretty much it spends the same, because how the fuck do you spend even $100 million, let alone $1 billion, right? So, and Shaq is he's one of those guys that really knows, he still has the money he made in the NBA and a lot more, because he's a great businessman. But anyway, having said that, he was in a Zales jewelry store earlier this week looking to buy some earrings when he came upon a man trying to pay for an engagement ring. Eager to help, O'Neal stepped in and footed the bill for the man. In an appearance on the NBA on TNT, which, by the way, is my favorite pregame and during the game show, because I think they have the best cast of guys, the former basketball player explained, and he's on that panel, by the way. That's where I watch my pre-basketballs. Anyway, why he'd gone to the store and noticed the guy when he walked in. Okay, here's what Shaq said. He was just so shy. I got to do it in Shaq. He was just so shy, and he was saying, "Hey, is that decent?" No, it doesn't work. Okay, you know who I sound like when I do that? Hey, I sound like Fat Albert.
Fat Albert.
Yeah, sorry, Shaq.
He's in prison right now.
Is he? Oh, that's right, Bill Cosby. Jesus Christ. Thank you, Tech Mastery. Shaq, I apologize for trying to imitate. Anyway, here's what Shaq said. "My man, how much is the ring? I'm not going to say the amount, but it's not much for me," O'Neal said. He's like, "Hey, man, I came back in the next month and the next month like a layaway, put the money down, but I was like, tell your girlfriend I got it." Oh, Shaq says, "Tell your girlfriend I got it, I'll take care of it." At first, he didn't want to take it, Shaq continued. He's like, "I can't do that, sir." So I said, "Don't worry about it. I do it all the time. I'm just trying to make people smile. That's all." O'Neal said, get this, he might be my favorite celebrity now. I think he's my favorite celebrity, okay? O'Neal said he didn't mean for his gesture to go viral on video, quote, "because I don't do it for that," adding that whenever he leaves the house, he tries to do a good deed. I love this guy.
Yeah.
I love this guy.
He's on the short list now.
I think he might be the list. Okay? I have a few favorites. That's not true. But he's definitely in the top 5. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I don't have anything to add to that, but I love you, Shaq, in a very healthy, non-sexual sort of way. Okay. What?
That wasn't necessary.
That was completely unnecessary. Right. Okay, I take that back. Yeah. Listen.
Thanks, Shaq. You're a great guy.
You're a great guy. Awesome, dude. Okay, let's move on to the Silver Stoners' fucking great advice. And I'm going to do 2 different advices today, beginning with knowing which hill to die upon. Okay. Most of you watching are not boomers. Most of you are millennials, Gen X, Z, whatever, and younger. And there's a tendency to ridicule old fuckers like me. But there's one thing I've got that you can never have. I'll never be as athletic, there we go, as you guys are again. And I'll never be as limber, and I'll never be as spry, and I'll never be as sexy, and I'll never be as good looking. But if there's one thing I've got, it's gray hair, and each and every one of them comes from some experience that has made me wiser with age. Wisdom only comes with age. I'm not saying I'm the wisest man in the world by a long shot. I'm sure that there are many more, starting with the Dalai Lama and going down from there, probably very far before you get to me. But if you're younger than me, I'm wiser than you. And I don't mean this to be an asshole, but good decisions come from experience. Experience comes from 2 things, bad decisions and time. I've made shit tons of bad, because you don't learn shit from your good decisions, right? I've made shit tons of bad decisions, and I've been around 64 years, okay? And there's something to that. And so I share with you one of those, I've made the same bad decision many times and finally learned that you don't have to die on every fucking hill. As you can tell, I'm a very opinionated person. I've always had a lot of opinions. Weed took the edge off. Now I'm a very opinionated person who you can prove wrong. Like yesterday, we were in a discussion with Chris from the Coughing Canary. He was talking about regulation, health regulation on weed. I was against it. He talked. I listened. I changed my mind. You know, and so you can be opinionated as long as you're open enough to listen to what the other person's saying. Now, I think that he made a point, and I actually thought about it overnight, and within reason, I think it's a little. There's a difference between a little and a lot. You know, it's all you don't have to go all or none. So anyway, which hill to die upon? How many times you've been in a discussion, an argument, a fight with someone, your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your lover, whatever, and later you think, why did I fight about that shit? Was that the hill I wanted to die on? Now, this is particularly important in relationship, guys and gals, because you got to learn to let it go 999 times. It really goes with the tenet that most often the best thing to do is nothing. The same is true in argument. You know, if it isn't going to kill you and your significant other wants to do something, for example, just one example, and you feel like you really don't want to do it, is that really the hill you want to die on? Do you really want to have that fight? To me, the only hills worth dying upon, in other words, fighting till the end, would be morality hills, I would think. You know, like I can't even think of an example off the top of my head, some moral decision. Otherwise, most battles, you know, why are you engaging? Like, you know, if you're disagreeing about, I don't know, a political issue or where to go to dinner. I mean, people fight about the dumbest shit, or money. That's a common one. You know, if the money's already spent, for example, and your spouse already spent it, do you really want to beat the shit out of them over it? Or is that water under the bridge and you want to say, you know, next time, honey, let's talk about it and let it go?
Because money can always be replaced.
Money's just a thing. By the way, the wealthiest people I know, and I've been both very rich and very poor, given my own decisions in life, I can tell you right now, the wealthy ones, I'm not talking about the sort of wealthy, I'm talking about the rich people I know don't give a fuck about money. They literally don't think about it. It's just and you could say that's easy for them to do because they have lots of it, but most of them are self-made. And the reason they became very wealthy is because they never worried about the money. You can't obsess about the money and be successful. You have to enjoy the process and allow that to unfold. And if you enjoy the process, the money takes care of itself. Well, in life, when having an argument, you have to ask yourself, do I really want to create animosity with a friend or a loved one over some fucking random issue? Or would it be easier for me just to give in? Now, I quickly add, there's a difference between not dying on a hill and being passive-aggressive, okay? Here's the difference, okay? Here's passive aggression. Let's say Techmaster and E and I are fighting, and I say something assholey like, okay, we'll just do what you want to do. Okay, that's passive aggression. I'm just going along to shut him up. I'm not genuinely letting go. I'm pretending to let go, and I'm being snide and backhanded. Okay, that's passive aggression.
And wrong.
That's exactly right. Instead, I would say, you know what? Here's how I could handle the same thing without making it passively aggressive. Hey, E, do we really have to go to that restaurant, or is, you know, I'm not really crazy about it. And if he insists, I go, okay, today we'll do yours, tomorrow we'll do mine. And you make a compromise and you move on. In other words, you don't have to die on every fucking hill. Let it go. Let the other side win once in a while. You don't have to be right, really. And who is right anyway? Because there is no truth, only perspective, right? So you're coming at it from your perspective. Let it, unless it's like life and death or morality at stake. And when I say morality, I'm not, don't preach your religion or your morals to other people. That's not what I mean. I mean, like, when you would be asked to do something immoral and you draw the line and say, I'm not going there. But don't, like, argue other people's morality. That's not the hill to die on, okay? Not the hill to die on. Important life lesson. Most of the time, you don't have to die on any hill. Just don't do anything at all. Listen to the 5 tenets of being a stoner. Okay, let's move on to my second piece of advice, which is kind of connected, but not. Never attack your ex when the kids are involved. Now, I bring this up because, and I'm sure this is true of you guys too, how many people you know, male or female, going through divorces and or breakups that are just fucking vicious? How many do you know, Techmaster E?
More than a handful.
Okay, and in your life experience at 53 years, how many times have you seen him try to enlist the kids in the fucking fight?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, see, this just isn't going to turn out well, okay? Look, children ebb and flow. Sometimes they prefer their moms, and sometimes they prefer their dads. Most often they prefer the course of least resistance. So if one parent is easier than the other, this is just one example, they're going to probably, at first, after a divorce or a breakup, want to go with the parent that's the easiest. But that doesn't mean that you need to feel threatened because they don't want to go to your house and then start saying shitty things about your ex when it's your turn to have the kids and try to fill them full of your bullshit, because I promise you at the end, they're only going to hate you. I don't give a fuck about how right you are or how shitty your ex is or what your story is or whatever it might be. That's a completely separate issue, going back to what hill to die on. Just remember, when you have an ex, remember a few things, okay? Number one, you used to fuck them. Okay, I mean, and I'm sorry, but you liked them enough to fuck them, right? And number two, you used to love them. And I know that love and hate are very, very close feelings and emotions, okay? And number three, you had children together in this particular example that I'm working with. So therefore, you're going to have to know them the rest of your life, okay? Do you really want to turn that into a poisonous cesspool and fuck up your children for life? My son has a best friend, one of his best friends. He has a lot of friends. He's a very social guy. And I won't use this little boy's name, but his parents went through the most vicious divorce I've ever seen. It went on for like 10 years back. They kept reopening it and reopening it and reopening it. And I won't go through the whole story, but today, this is a beautiful boy who chews his fingernails down to the nubs, chain smokes, and goes to see a psychiatrist regularly because his parents fucked him up. And his sister is a slut. And there's no other way to put it, because her parents fucked her up. Leave your children out of it, okay? When you're with your kids and they say, what do you think about what mommy said or daddy said? You say, you know what? I think it's great.
So let's highlight the flip side.
What's the flip side?
Where mom and dad don't do that.
Oh, well.
And look what happens.
Okay, so in my case, I actually had the world's friendliest divorce. I'm going to use mine. So Terry and I, when we got divorced, used one attorney, divided our assets 50-50 down the middle, and we made a pact that we would never badmouth each other, okay? And then I got a house that was less than a half a mile away from where my ex's house was, which used to be my house, but now it was her house. So, by the way, it's just a thing, right? I mean, okay, she got the house. I got the business. I mean, it was all fair. It was fine. Okay. I've never badmouthed my ex. She's never badmouthed me. Our children now range from 26 to 42. They all get along great. They all get along with both of us. We still do holidays together. We still talk occasionally, more than occasionally. We're still friends. Now, look, I don't want to sleep with her anymore. I don't want to get back with her, but we have well-adjusted children. And, there are things about her that annoy me and hook me. That's why we got divorced. And there are certainly things about me that annoy and hook her. But you know what? So what? Let's keep the important thing in mind, well-adjusted children. You've met two of my children. Would you say they're well-adjusted and happy?
Yeah, they're great.
Okay. And I've met yours, and she's well-adjusted and happy too, by the way. So there you go. You want well-adjusted, happy children. Stop fucking shooting each other. And I know how people justify that shit. Well, but they need to know. No, they don't. No, they don't. Okay? They don't need to know. You are experiencing rage. Okay? Let me just go on for 1 second more, and I'll be done.
1 second.
Okay, there's a difference between rage and anger, okay? Because once you get into rage, then the next transition is bitterness. And once you become bitter, you cannot become unbitter. Okay, this is why, by the way, for example, in my own life, I find it very hard to find women my age to date who aren't bitter because their first husbands fucked them over so often in their perception, and then they get embittered, and then you go out on the date, and all they want to do is talk about their ex-husband, how they fucked them over. And you know what's the last thing I want to hear? I'm not her ex-husband.
Yeah, they beat up men, and some men beat up women. It's terrible.
There are shitty men, there are shitty women. There are people that are just nice but shitty in the given situation because they press each other's buttons, whatever it is, okay? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know it. Don't go bitter. Don't fight. Don't enlist your children. Look at the bigger picture. Try to live happy ex-wife, happy ex-husband, happy life. That's all I have to tell you. And happy children. Try to make everybody happy. It's not as hard as you think. Really, it isn't. Okay. Come on, dude. Seriously. This is kind of an interesting story. I'm moving along now. Check this out. A California man was arrested Saturday and accused of hiding in a restricted area of Chicago's O'Hare International Airport for 3 months.
Wait,
there was a movie about this.
Yeah, what is it? It's called Terminal.
Tom Hanks, The Terminal, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but you wouldn't have thought it was possible. This guy lived the fucking terminal. So, check this out. The man told police that COVID-19 had rendered him too scared to travel home to California. In other words, he was going to get on the plane and then freak the fuck out, okay? So he hid in the airport, surviving on food provided by strangers. United Airlines staff spotted the 36-year-old, I'm going to louse up his name, Aditya Singh, so clearly he's Indian, Indian American, probably an immigrant, and requested identification. They said he removed his mask and presented a badge which belonged to an airport operations manager who reported it missing last October. This was in the Chicago Tribune, by the way.
You would think it'd be deactivated because it's lost. But he was going in and out of places.
So the next time this is just another example of bureaucracy. Fuck. How did they not 3 months? 3 fucking months. I mean, first of all.
How do you take a shower?
That was you took the words out of my mouth.
I could see him
had
take a
to be
shit,
sponge baths with paper towels in the men's rooms at night. Right?
Maybe so, yeah.
I mean, truck stops have showers, but the airports? I don't know.
Think
I mean,
so.
Every truck stop you ever go to has showers for the drivers, right? You can sneak back there and take a shower if you want to.
And you can buy a shower.
Yeah, and by the way, all the good truck stops I've been in, like the Petros and the big chains, they're clean. They kind of smell like Clorox. They go in there and clean them down really well. And yeah, but in an airport, like, how did this guy stay clean? And did he wear the same outfit for 3 fucking months?
3 months. Hey, that's the guy from yesterday.
How did nobody notice this? These are the people. Come on, dude, seriously. The reason I put it here is because these are the people who are also in charge of our airport security. Okay? Come on, dude. Seriously? Seriously, dude. 3 months. Seriously.
Then he needed a haircut. Then he needed to shave.
How do you like that? His hair had to be what? Down to his shoulders?
Something.
I guess shave, he could steal what? Razors from the little gift shops because they're grotesquely overpriced. You know, the little Bic. I think they sell I don't know. I've never bought one in an airport.
He could have panhandled the money to buy
razors and
he could have.
Can you imagine what his teeth were like?
Well, he could get the toiletries. I mean, if he panhandled, I think the story said.
But how did no one see him? If he was panhandling, how did no one see him panhandling? Okay, Mr. Singh, but like the underlying thing here is how can you be so frightened? I mean, too much.
Or why didn't you just leave?
Or why? Yeah, if you're afraid. Wait, yeah. Why not leave the airport and hitchhike to fucking California? If you're going to depend on the friendship of strangers, right, to eat for 3 months. And by the way, I've been in Chicago O'Hare. Have you been in Chicago O'Hare? Yeah. It is not a garden spot.
No.
It's kind of a grungy shithole.
Yeah.
Okay? Like
old-ish.
Like
why didn't you leave? I mean,
Chicago's a great town. Why don't you go out and experience the city?
What was his life before that? Was he on the run? Why wouldn't you leave the airport and go back home?
I'm left speechless. I don't have an answer to any of those questions, Techmaster E. I just don't. I don't get it. But I thought it was an interesting story, so I shared it with you. And anyway, that brings us to the Daily Dow, followed by the end of the show. And the Daily Dow today is, as it acts in the world, the Dow is like the bending of a bow. The top is bent downward, the bottom is bent up. It adjusts excess and deficiency so that there is perfect balance. It takes from what is too much and gives to what isn't enough. So what that means to you, my friends, is basically relax. The natural flow of things. Sometimes it's shitty, sometimes it's good, but in the end, it achieves what it's going to achieve without you messing around with it. And if you live in harmony with it, you'll have a longer, healthier, happier life. And if you throw a little weed in with it, it's easier to do. And with that, I'm going to close today's show. Hey, listen, thank you guys. We had kind of a silly show today, Techmaster, but it was fun.
Nice and light.
Every day can't be Simchat Torah. That's what my parents used. Simchat Torah, by the way, Jews, this is just a completely, they read the Torah, the scrolls, all the way through in the court. They read 1/365th every day. The Orthodox Jews do. And when they get to the end to start over, that's a holiday called Simchat Torah. So when I was a little kid, my mother used to say to me when I would, nag her, she'd say, look, every day is in Simchat Torah, Anyway, I don't know why I shared that with you other than Jewish culture, but, listen, if you thought it was interesting, fine, and if you didn't, Kishmem Tochas, which is, by the way, Jewish for kiss my ass, which I don't really mean because I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you. We are part of the stoner community. I sincerely mean that. I look forward to our next show. We're not going to do any more shows this week. It's Memorial Day coming up. Tech Master E is heading off to the hills for the weekend. It is healthy to take a break. We here at the Silver Stoner do not discourage our associates from taking a day off because otherwise you burn the fuck out. So let that be a lesson to you too. And until next time, this is Uncle Herb. Peace out.
You're listening to the Silver Stoner Show.